My next guest narrowly lost the Senate campaign to Harry Reid last year. Prior to entering the race in 2010, however, Sharron Angle served 4 terms as an assemblywoman from Nevada's 26th district. She's the author of Property Tax Reform Initiative, Prop 13, has tried to get a property tax limit placed in the Nevada state constitution, and went to the court to defend Nevada's 2/3 requirement for tax increases. Her new book is Right Angle, One Woman's Journey to Reclaim the Constitution. Welcome, Sharron Angle.
Thank you, Mallory.
Sharron, you've made some pretty aggressive allegations about the Reid campaign, the SEIU, and the casino industry in your book. What happened last November?
The election, of course, we have challenged it. We have a lawsuit at the Department of Justice, and those facts are there. We're continuing on with our pursuit for justice. And so in the book I do talk a bit about that, but really the book Right Angle is, as I said, just what my journey to get from a housewife and mother who was challenged by the government when I wanted to homeschool my child. And I found that when the government interferes with my family, I need to get more involved with the government. So I became more of an activist than just a voter. And I would encourage those that are watching your show, this is what we need to do as citizens of the United States. We've been warned that the price of freedom is constant vigilance. Well, we need to be constantly vigilant, and that's how we do it. We get more involved than just voting.
The SEIU, Service
Yes.
Employees Union International, played a role in your defeat by Harry Reid. What role exactly did they play?
We found that what they were doing was busing people to the polls and providing incentive for them to be voters. And we feel that that is a violation in the ethical sense, if not in the legal sense, of what true elections are all about. We need to have true elections where people who are citizens vote, and that they vote uncoerced, and they vote without having to have an incentive to vote, that they do that of their own free volition. And I think that's what the Founding Fathers wanted. That's certainly what I want. I want voters to be there because they understand this is the most important part of being an American.
But once you go into that voting booth, nobody's there with you. Nobody's forcing you to pull any lever.
Well, that's true. That's true, but oftentimes, especially with people that immigrate from countries where they're not sure that their vote is not being watched, then if they're feeling the pressure from someone to vote, they're not sure that you're not seeing their vote. We also have some evidence that those who were going to vote for me were not allowed on the buses. So it's, you know, it was those kinds of things that we saw. And really the issue here is making sure this never happens again. That's why I've started Our Voice PAC, and that the proceeds from my book Right Angle, which you can get online at SharronAngle.com, the proceeds will go into Our Voice PAC, and the whole mission and our focus is, first of all, we want to make sure that what Harry Reid did in Nevada, he will not do in other states. And we know that he is beginning to promote those kinds of things in other states now. And we want to make sure that he doesn't do the SEIU thing. He doesn't bus people that shouldn't be voting to the polls. But also, we want to make sure that Harry Reid is not the Senate Majority Leader at the end of 2012. So that's the second piece of Our Voice PAC, and that's why we're putting so much effort and really the proceeds from the book. We think that we need to be ready when he begins to promote his agenda. We need to be able to have the money to counter that.
Sharron, what else did Harry Reid do besides working with SEIU and busing people?
I think the one thing that people didn't understand was that when I won that primary, I didn't have any money left to go immediately to television. I just won a primary. I'd spent every dime that people were willing to give me on that. And he went up 24 hours later on the television and began to make personal attacks. He knew he could not stand toe-to-toe with me on the issues, and I think that became very clear with our debate, that we had, that when we debated the issues, he was not able to debate issues. So he had to personally attack me and use words like extreme and crazy and far right, and I think you've heard the mantra. And that's one of the things that he's going to be exporting. So I would really warn your listeners not to pay too much attention when someone is being called those kinds of names or personal attacks are being made. It's not about your personal persona, I guess is what I want to say. What this is really about is your record, and I was so glad that in your introduction you mentioned my record, that I have fought for the Constitution. I have voted no against taxes numerous times, and I have a record of that. People can count on that. That's what they want in government, is someone they can trust. And so that's really what we need to be focusing on as voters, is what about that person can I trust, that I know that's what they're doing and they're going to continue to do. Not, are they, as I said once before, are they just another pretty face or a charismatic person? We don't need more charisma. What we need is more truth.
What role did the casino industry play in the election with Harry Reid?
The lawsuit that we have at the Department of Justice, of course, has some of the forensic evidence, as a legal person would call that. What we have is an email from a person high up in the casino industry saying, put your middle management in a chokehold until you get people to vote. They need to be on those buses. We know who's voted, we know who hasn't, and they need to vote for Harry Reid. Also, if you look at the money, and this is another thing that I would encourage your people that are interested in, how do I choose a candidate? Go look and follow the money trail. You can go to things like opensecrets.com, or you can actually go to the FEC reports, or even in your state there are the Secretary of State's reports that tell you where their money comes from. And you will see that money flow from the casinos, their executives, into Harry Reid's campaign funds. So a lot of the money that was used to fight against or fight within that election was provided by some of the casinos. So, you know, there's all kinds of ways that people can help candidates, and of course we know that money's the mother's milk of politics, and when we follow the money trail we find out.
Do you have an estimate about how many illegal votes were cast in that race?
We don't know exactly. We know that if you don't have a personal affidavit from a person whose vote they know didn't count, or they're saying I voted illegally, or they say I know this person voted illegal, something that's legal that you can present, unless you have that kind of evidence and you go into court with that kind of evidence, you're not going to make a difference in the election.
What do you see happening in the Tea Party movement today?
I expect it to continue. I don't see this wave changing. We saw the movement kind of get to the Rocky Mountains. If you remember, there weren't any of us that were elected west of the Rockies, really, west of Colorado. The actual movement was more effective east of that line. And so I think you're going to see that wave moving now more forward. I also have seen some change in the way people are voting that have been there for a while. Now they're starting to say, maybe I need to reconsider how I vote and the philosophy of government that I have. Perhaps there is something to this lower taxes, less government, cut the spending that we've been hearing from Main Street America, and perhaps I shouldn't be so quick to shove them into a corner and just say, oh, it's those Tea Partiers out there, and really begin to listen to my constituency and what's important to them.
Is there a Tea Party presidential candidate that stands head and shoulders above all the others?
I'm really excited. I think we have a great crowd of good candidates, and I think it's just a matter now on settling on the very best, and then we'll be able to defeat President Barack Obama, because he's obviously going in the wrong direction for Main Street America.
Do you have a favorite right now?
I don't. I'm waiting just like you.
You recently decided against seeking an open congressional seat. Is that it for politics for you?
I haven't ruled out anything, and really I need to be very clear about what I bowed out of. I bowed out of a special election in Nevada that's going to be decided in the courts because of an ambiguous law. They don't even know exactly how they want to run this election. Whenever you get something into the courts, and I talk about this in my book, Right Angle, about how we go over the fence of the Constitution. Instead of going through the Constitution, we somehow disregard it. And judicial activism is one of those ways that people have gotten around the Constitution. And that's what's going on in Nevada now, is we're going to have the judicial system creating law, legislating from the bench. Is just one of those things that we just say, this is not happening in the United States, but it is happening in this election. And I know that people consider me a clarion call for this movement, someone who's going to tell it like it is and is not going to participate in those things that would actually go against what we are as Americans or go against our constitutional principles. And so by partaking or by participating in that special election, I felt that it would be a sponsorship or a sanctioning of that election. And I decided I didn't want to send that kind of a mixed message. I decided I'll let that go forward however it's going to be, and on the other side of that, then I'll make up my mind what I want to do about seeking election. I felt like at this point, by bringing out the book, putting the money into our voice pack, and getting prepared for what what I'm going to call not the left side but the wrong side is bringing our way in this next election, being prepared to not only campaign in Nevada but across the United States and take Harry Reid to task and take him into a different area, not as the majority leader, but bring him out of that position. And I thought, that's what I need to do now, and then I'll think about what my future in campaigning is.
So we may see you back running for elective office.
Well, they're saying that this special election will be over on September the 13th, and then they said, well, maybe we'll have to postpone it longer. So I'm not sure when this will be decided in Nevada, but after that date, then I'll make a decision myself.
Well, we're going to keep watching you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you so much for being here, Sharron Angle.